I still remember the exact second I realized they weren't inviting me to be polite. The envelope was thick, glossy, heavy with gold trim, the kind of invitation people keep as souvenirs. It had my name printed perfectly like nothing bad had ever happened between us. And I laughed. Not a happy laugh, the kind you let out when life is so absurd it almost feels scripted. Because the man who sent it, the man about to get married in one of the most expensive venues in California, was the same man who kicked me out of our home while I was pregnant and told me straight to my face that I was dragging him down. So yeah, exactly what this was. They wanted a show. His name used to mean something to me. Nathan Cole. Back when I believed promises mattered. Back when I thought love could survive ambition. We met when he had nothing but confidence and big plans, and I had a quiet job, a small apartment, and a heart that trusted too easily. I supported him, cheered for him, rearranged my life so his could move faster. That's what you do when you love someone, right? Then I got pregnant. Not just pregnant. 3 heartbeats. Triplets. That's when the warmth disappeared. Nathan stopped coming home. Stopped answering calls. Started looking at me like I was a problem he hadn't budgeted for. I still remember him pacing the living room running numbers in his head instead of holding my hand. "This isn't what I signed up for," he said, and a few weeks later he made sure I understood that clearly. Divorce papers, empty accounts, locks changed. Me standing on the sidewalk with a suitcase and a future I couldn't see past tomorrow. People talk about rock bottom like it's dramatic. For me, it was quiet. It was working night shifts while pregnant, scrubbing offices that smelled like bleach and exhaustion. It was skipping meals so I could afford diapers later. It was strangers staring at my stomach like it was a warning sign. It was hearing whispers that I should have known better. By the time my babies were born, I had learned how to survive without making noise. And that's why the invitation hit the way it did. Because survival wasn't enough for him. He wanted humiliation. He wanted me to walk into that wedding. Small, tired, obviously ruined, so his success would shine brighter. His new fiancée, Lily Hart, was young, beautiful, always photographed in designer dresses. Their wedding was being talked about like an event, not a marriage. And somehow, I was supposed to be the punchline. For a while, I almost didn't go. I imagined the stares, the whispers, the way he'd smile, that smug little smile when he saw me. I imagined my knees shaking, my voice failing my kids, sensing the tension. There were nights I stared at that invitation until my eyes burned, asking myself why I would ever step into a room designed to break me. Then something changed. It wasn't anger, it wasn't revenge, it was exhaustion. I was tired of hiding, tired of shrinking, tired of letting someone who abandoned us still control how small I felt. And that's when Marcus Reed knocked on my door. If you don't know his name, that's because he keeps it that way. Old money, quiet power. The kind of man who doesn't need attention because attention comes to him anyway. He told me he knew Nathan, knew the kind of deals he made, knew the shortcuts. And more importantly, he knew what it was like to lose everything to someone else's selfishness. "I'm not here to save you," he said. "I'm here to make sure you don't stand alone." I didn't trust him right away. Life doesn't teach you to. But there was something steady about him, something honest. When I told him I wouldn't accept pity, he nodded and said, "Good, I wouldn't offer it." The day of the wedding, a car waited outside my building. Black, quiet, expensive in a way that didn't scream about it. Inside, there were clothes for me, tiny outfits for my kids, and a stylist who treated me like a person, not a project. When I looked in the mirror dressed in a deep blue gown that actually fit my body, I barely recognized myself. Not because I looked rich, because I looked unafraid. My kids laughed. One of them said I looked like a superhero, and I almost cried. The venue was enormous. Marble floors, crystal lights, cameras everywhere. And the second we stepped inside, the room shifted. You could feel it like when a song stops mid-note. Heads turned. Conversations died. Because the woman they expected to pity walked in standing tall, holding 3 small hands with a man beside her who didn't flinch. Nathan saw me and froze. I wish I could say I felt powerful right away. I didn't. My heart was pounding. My palms were cold. But I didn't look away. Not this time. He tried to laugh it off, made jokes, said things like, "Wow, you really showed up like I was a stray animal that wandered in by accident." Lily smiled tightly, her eyes scanning me head to toe, calculating. And then Nathan crossed the line. "Did you bring them for sympathy?" he said, nodding toward my kids. "Or were you hoping someone here would feel bad enough to help you out?" The room went silent. My oldest squeezed my hand, and before I could speak, Marcus stepped forward. Calm, controlled, deadly in the quietest way. "You're confusing sympathy with accountability," he said. "And you've avoided the second one for a long time." Nathan scoffed, tried to brush it off. That's when Marcus placed a folder on the table. Documents, numbers, proof, transfers, shell companies, money. Nathan didn't earn funding a life he didn't deserve. You could almost hear the room turning against him, investors whispering, phones coming out, Lily's face draining of color. She asked him if it was true. He lied. She knew he was lying. When the police walked in, it was like watching a fantasy shatter in real time. Nathan's confidence collapsed. Lily stepped away, literally took off her ring and left it on the floor. Cameras followed her out, and just like that, the wedding of the year became a crime scene. As they led Nathan away, he looked at me with pure hatred, like I had done this to him. But I didn't. I just stopped being silent. After everything settled, after the noise faded, my kids looked up at me and asked if we were okay now, and for the first time in years I could answer without hesitation. Yes. What happened next surprised everyone. Marcus took the microphone not to boast, not to dominate the room, but to say something simple. That strength doesn't always look loud, that dignity doesn't need permission, and that sometimes the people we discard are the ones who outgrow us. Later that night, when the room had softened, when the chaos had passed, he asked me a question I wasn't expecting. Not in front of everyone, just quietly, about the future, about building something real, together. I didn't answer right away, because winning doesn't always feel like fireworks. Sometimes it feels like relief, like finally setting something heavy down. Life didn't magically turn perfect after that, but it turned honest. My kids stopped sensing fear in my voice. I slept better. I stood straighter. Not because I married well, not because I stood beside power, but because I finally believed I was never the problem. So here's what I want to ask you. Was I right to walk into that room knowing what they planned? Should I have stayed quiet, stayed home, let them keep their illusion? Or is there a moment when silence stops being strength and starts being surrender? Tell me what you think. Where do you draw the line between dignity and confrontation, between letting go and standing your ground? Drop your thoughts below. I read them all. And trust me, these conversations matter more than you think.